Hi, folks, and welcome to another episode of Careers in Coffee. So today we're going to be joined by Ed Ngai. So Ed is the creative facilitator and founder of Led Creatives. So Ed's going to talk to us a little bit more about the creative sector and his role. So let's bring Ed on. Welcome, Ed. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about what you do. So let's kick off. Tell us who you are and what you do.
So I'm Ed. I started a not-for-profit organisation called Led Creatives back in 2019, and the whole idea was to build up a network of creative people to support each other and also use our collective expertise to help bring up the next generation of creative people as well.
Fantastic. And sort of what was your background before that?
So I came from the video gaming world. I studied video games development, and I've got a degree in it. And I basically had spent my early 20s, mid 20s, not really knowing where I'm going with my life. So I thought, okay, I'll just coast along, and then opportunities came up when I least expect them to, and I decided I'm going to try and build up a community because there's a lot of creative people in and around Ipswich that just don't know each other. So what kind of possibilities would happen if we just put them in a room together? And lo and behold, Led was born from that.
That sounds fantastic. And how many folks are part of Led?
At the moment, it's a really hard question to answer because I didn't. I kind of inherited a group called the Ipswich Creators Meetup, and when I inherited it, there was about 350 members already, and since I've taken over, it's grown to 700.
Wow, that's crazy. So pre-lockdown, did you have a place that you all met, or did you sort of socialize online and work via that? How were things and how's it sort of developed?
Yes, the Ipswich Creative Meetup happens every third Wednesday of the month, and pre-lockdown, when I started, we were just meeting in a pub, and then as it grew, I decided to take it around to different creative places that people don't really know about. So we went from the makerspace to the smokehouse to the Creative Computing Club to shops, and it was just a way for creative people to find out about these places that nobody really knows about.
You mentioned makerspace there. I think I've been there because I think it used to be above some sort of pantry place that made all sorts of stuff.
It was a
It's
jam
near a
maker
pub.
factory or something like that.
Yeah. Because I know that Josie, who's on in the background, is very fond of a restaurant just down the road from that. Also, and when we talk about creative, there are so many different roles and things that are part of that. Can you give us a flavour of the sort of things that some of the folks who are coming to Led are part of?
Yeah, creative people is a very broad term. It's not just people who make art. It's not people who perform. It's not just people who we have artists. We have photographers. We have dancers, actors, filmmakers, producers. We have concept artists. We have animators. I was told Oggy has been on here, and that's how we met as well. We also have marketers, advertisers. We have public relations, creative thinkers. So people who solve problems creatively, they are also part of Led as well.
That's fantastic. I was going to touch on skills. I think you just sort of have there in terms of folks who are creative, just generally a part of this. Is there any other sort of skills or a mindset that you feel threads between all of these people who are part of Led?
I think support is the main thing that we all strive for, which is just supporting each other, because we know that creating something is hard, and creating something from scratch is even harder. So it's always good to just have people around there to bounce ideas off. If you're not quite sure how to make something happen, talk about it, and then possibly you get solutions from lots of different people with experience or people who have a different perspective.
Fantastic. And how do you become part of LED? Is there a certain age group, or can students and young people get involved?
Anyone can be involved. I'm trying to make it as inclusive as possible. So if you're young, you're always welcome to come to these meetups. You're welcome to post in the group just to get a flavour, or if you have any burning questions about your future career, you can just post a question and see who answers. Maybe it's someone who has the job that you want, and they
Fantastic.
can answer all the queries and questions that you've had in your mind but couldn't find the answers to.
Good stuff. I think I need to be part of this. Why is it important that we do start talking to young people about the creative sector? Because I know that, in most people's roles who support careers in schools, sometimes we go to the obvious ones, professional services and energy and all of those sorts of areas. And sometimes we miss out on sectors such as health and social care and creative. How important is it we start to talk to young people more about the creative sector?
I think it's very important because not many people know how important the creative sector is in England. The creative sector is one of the fastest growing and biggest sector in the UK. This is film, art, graphics, advertising, and just general fine arts as well. That those sectors cover a lot of jobs in the UK. And I remember from my personal experience when I was growing up in school, when I wanted to be a games developer, my careers advisor was like, so you want to be into computers? I was like, not really. I wanted to make games and like learn how to make things from using a computer, but not tied to a computer. Yeah. And he didn't understand that. And I think there needs to be a better understanding of what the creative sector is and what they can provide.
Excellent. That's good advice. Thank you. We just got a question here. So what has the impact of COVID been generally for people in the creative sector? And is there any areas that have been impacted less?
Well, the obvious answer to that is that theatres and performances, when it comes to like live music gigs, they have been impacted majorly over the COVID period. And that is something that there's no helping, because you can't put people in the same room and enjoy a performance sort of thing. However, over the last 12 months, it has kind of evolved. There has been more online performances. There have been more online theatre. At the moment, I'm working with a local dancer who has Arts Council funding to put on a dance show. But because of COVID, she couldn't put on the dance show, and she came to me, and I advised her on converting the live performance into a filmed performance, and now we're in the process of making a short film into, turning her dance show into a short film. So there are ways of going about it, and I think that's the brilliance of creative thinkers, where we can see a problem, but then we can turn that problem into opportunity.
Excellent, thank you. And you talked there a little bit about theatres and that they've had to completely reinvent themselves in terms of digital performances. Do you think there'll be more of a hybrid sort of situation moving forwards, both digital and in-person theatre performances? Or do you think we'll all just revert back to what it used to be? What's your thoughts on that?
I think there might be. There might be, but it really comes down to how the direction of each theatre separately. They're not like a hive mind. They don't all have the same ideals or thinking of whether once this is over, we're just going to stop filming stuff and start just producing live stuff and getting people through the door, because that's why they started it. But they didn't go into theatre wanting to make films. They wanted to go into theatre making theatre. So in that respect, I totally see that and support that.
Good stuff. Thank you. And you talked about being a video games designer and the interesting sort of careers advice that you got. Tell us a little bit more about what it means to be a video games designer.
When it comes to video games design, it's a massive misconception of people playing video games all the time, because that's not how it works. There's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of needing to be warned that if you're going to video games, the chances are you'll probably never make much money out of it, but you'll have a lot of rewarding experiences and meet a lot of interesting people. And it, like, only a few people can make a game by themselves and be successful. The majority of games that are out there are made by teams, and a designer is just one cog part of a machine. And the designer is basically the person who thinks about the game and how it would play. You have the game artist who makes the game look brilliant, and then you have the programmer who puts it all together, and then you have the sound engineer who makes all the music and sounds for it, and all that combined makes a game that is fun to play.
Excellent, thank you. We've got a question as well. So, what areas do you channel your own creativity into?
I got into video game design, but I realized after I graduated that I didn't want to go into the video games industry, and instead I wanted to focus more on writing. So I would always class myself as a writer first, but I also do a lot of digital art in my free time as well, or as much free time as I get.
And what sort of things do you write?
I write short stories. At the moment, I'm writing a TV script. I do a lot of short stuff and scripts mainly.
So can you share any details about the upcoming TV show?
I can't, because it's not mine. It's I'm writing it for someone, and I can't.
I thought we were going to get a sneak preview there. Okay.
No,
and so during your time in the industry, what are some of the key skills that you've got out of
it? Since I started LED, I've learned more about inclusivity. Well, I can't say it properly. And access, like how to make the community more inclusive, try to get people to come in and feel like they're a part of it, and not just be a part of it, but feel like they're a part of it. And that comes with a lot of social skills. Like, I'm not the most extroverted of people. I'm an introvert, and this has kind of pushed me into being more extroverted, which at times I'm still not very comfortable about, but it's something I'm slowly easing myself into.
Good. And now you're live on YouTube, so I feel like we're making leaps and bounds today. It's good. Another question for you. So yes, you've had a fantastic career and you continue to do so. What have been some of the highs and lows for you so far?
I think the highs have been how the community has evolved. It's become more towards what I envisioned it, a support network. It's a place where people can share ideas and collaborate, like collaboration is one of the major things I want for this community. It's getting people to talk to each other and working with each other. And yeah, attending these meetups and seeing people. One of my favorite memories is there was a guy, Jerry, who runs the storytelling festival in Woodbridge, and he's a fairly older gentleman, and he was sat next to a younger student videographer, and they were sat next to each other. These two people would never talk to each other outside of anything like this, and they sat next to each other, started talking, and by the end of it, Jerry offered Percy a great opportunity to do some filming at the festival. And it's these type of stories of getting people together and meeting people that we would never meet, wouldn't feel comfortable talking to outside of any meetups, and actually getting collaborations going. Those are my highs. My lows has been COVID and not knowing what to do after, in the wake of everything shutting down, not having a live meetup, a place where we can like interact with each other in person. That was a low. It's like trying to change how to change led into being a more online presence.
Excellent, thank you. And for any young people who are watching and who will watch, and they're thinking, okay, Ed sounds like he's got a cool career. What's sort of the pathway into that? And I suppose more specifically into a video games designer. What's sort of the pathway for
that? For video games, it's purely starting. Actually, not just video games. It's all creatives. All creatives start off by just talking to one another, trying to encourage each other, trying to get advice, trying to get yourself known as well. Because what I've learned about the video games industry over the last 11 years is that it's a very who you know rather than what you know kind of industry. And how you get to be known is by attending conventions, attending meetups, and talking to the people who are in the industry, who have advice, who because we're all very helpful. We all love to support the next generation of creatives, and you just say, hello, I'm a writer myself. I would love to get your advice. If I send you something, can you just have a read and give me some critiques? And 9 times out of 10, they'll probably say yes. The only time that they will say no is if they are too busy to be able to accommodate that. And that's not a no, don't bother me again. That's a no, I can't do it right now. Come back to me in like 6 months or something.
That's good advice, thank you. Just got another question. So, as a writer, how do you develop your ideas and pitch them to people?
I develop them by having a close set of friends who would spend time to bounce ideas off with me. Like, it always starts with maybe friends at a pub or friends online, just texting each other saying, "Oh, isn't this wouldn't this be a good idea for a story?" And to develop that is just getting people to first, you have to write it yourself. You can't just start talking about it and talk about it and talk about it and not do any writing, because a writer's job is to write. So once you've written it, that's when you start showing people that are outside your group, and getting people to read it, critique it, and refine it. Once you've refined it into a better state, then you start taking it to people you admire and say, this is something I've written. What do you, please give me your opinion and let me know what you think. And again, people are happy to help because you're coming to them with your baby, and they'll be conscious of that. They won't just say, this is not good at all, don't do this job ever again. They'll be offering advice. They'll be saying, okay, these are the parts that work, these are the parts that don't work, and if they don't do that, then that's not the type of person you want to get advice from.
I mean, even in that, that's good advice. Okay, so next question. So what exactly is a digital artist, and what software do you use?
So a digital artist is someone who mainly draws or paints on a computer. And the software I use is one called Clip Studio Paint, which is, actually, it was on sale up until yesterday. But every year they have a 50% sale, and normal price is about £40. Half price, it's £20. And it's a very versatile, very cheap software that I always recommend. And yeah, I use a graphics tablet, something that looks a bit like this. You just draw it on here, and it'll come. You draw it.
I mean, now you've said this, I feel like we need to see some of the art. Are you able to show us?
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Fantastic. And often how long is a piece of string, but on average, how long does it take from start to finish, depending on what you're working on?
It varies. Can you see my screen? Oh, there you go.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Oh wow, fantastic.
Yeah. So.
Very slow.
Very simple like that. Something like that took a couple of hours. From a sketch to the thing. And then I have like cartoons, and this one took about a week from start to finish.
That's
so
amazing.
It really varies sometimes. Like every part of LED, what I do at LED, I run something called Sketch, which is every Tuesday evening at 7:30 till 9, and it's literally a social drawing club, and that's how I find my time to draw. So yeah, like that, it's setting some time to draw with people who are also interested in drawing as well, and it can be a social thing where you can just turn up with a colouring book and start colouring.
So is this a recent passion, or have you always sort of been interested and worked on digital art?
It's I've been doing digital art since I left uni, which was back in 2009. So yeah, I think I picked it up during 2010.
Right. So you say every Thursday LED members can go along
Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Not just LED members, anyone can turn up to. They just have to. They can find out more on Instagram or Facebook or Meetup, the Meetup app.
Brilliant. And so, folks, there you go. You heard it from Ed. Go on Instagram Tuesdays. He'll teach you how to sketch. So yeah. That's awesome. Thank you. I want to come back to sort of skills in young people as well. So what do you think are some of the top skills or sort of character traits that a young person should have to be able to thrive in the creative sector?
To be able to thrive it can depend on different disciplines, but I would say being open to new ideas, being open to just talking to people, about stuff. Like I hear so many people who are really precious about their own stories. Like when I come across writers and say, I don't want to tell you what my story is about because I don't want you to steal my ideas. Like that, the frustrating thing for a lot of people is that they realize that if they don't start sharing their stories, they don't actually improve their stories in any way. And what I've learned is that not many people want to steal any ideas because everyone's got their own ideas. Everyone thinks that their idea is the best. And that's how creators should think. Like, I don't need your ideas, I've got my own. And I know that if I work hard on my one, it'll be successful. And that's the mindset everyone should have when they come to being a creative.
That's very good advice. I like that. Thank you, Ed. And another question for you. So if we were to rewind the clocks back to when Ed was 15, 16, what advice do you think you'd give yourself?
I would probably tell myself to stop thinking so much and just do it. Like there's been so many situations where I got lost in my own head and I talk myself out of situations. And it's only in the last 2 years that when I started LED and met all these amazing people doing all these amazing things, that I realized I could have started years, decades before, just to only if I started doing and not talk myself out of it.
I got a little bit about that because I think my connection dropped off for a second, but I'm back. It's fine. And I think probably one final question, because conscious of time and my Wi-Fi. What do you like about living and working in Suffolk?
I've always described Suffolk as a place that's always up and coming. There's like so much going on that people just don't know about. Everything's just under the bubble, under the boil, and it just takes one thing to pop, one bubble to pop, and everything starts spilling over. And that's when we'll have this creative renaissance in the east of England.
Like that. Spokesperson. I love it. Awesome. Ed, I'm going to leave it there because hopefully we won't have any more connection issues. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I've learned so much. Yeah, keep smashing it with all the work you're doing. It sounds absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, Ed. So, folks, that was Ed Ngai speaking to us a little bit more about all of his work, everything from being a writer to a video games designer to working on his digital art, and also leading the fantastic work at LED Creative. And be sure to sign up. We'll pop links on. And similarly with Ed's work in terms of sketching on Tuesdays, we'll make sure to include that as well. So huge thank you for joining us on Careers and Coffee. This is the end of this week's Careers and Coffee, so be sure to tune in next Tuesday and Thursdays, 12:30 to 1, more Careers and Coffees and guests. Thanks.